when I first heard of Extra Twisted coming out, I was pretty excited. But at the same time, since I already have Twisted Metal Black, I felt like, you know, why do I need to get this Extra Twisted? Just because it has a few extra features in it, you know? So for a while, I didn't bother and I was just playing Black over and over. But as I was doing that, I started realizing that Black is pretty difficult. I already knew it was a difficult game, but it got to the point where it was kind of frustrating. Especially like when I got to the snowy level. Okay, I'm not a beginner, I've been playing this kind of game for a while, and you know, I can beat the game, of course, but it's very difficult to pass the stage without dying, or when you add certain personal goals in there. I found it very frustrating to meet. So, it just got to the point where I was looking forward to seeing small changes and small additions was simply good enough for me by this time, because I did really like the core game, and to me, Black was the best card combat game ever, you know. So I was ready to get a game just for the small additions. So to me, in my mind, basically, getting Extra Twisted was like going from Street Fighter 2 to Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you know. Street Fighter 2 Turbo, they they obviously made the game faster, and they also added small things to the gameplay to make the game more balanced, more enjoyable. And in addition, they also gave you the four bosses, So it's just like an improvement of the original. So I figure Extra Twisted would be something like that compared to Twisted Metal Black. Uh, just small improvements here and there. I was totally wrong. It's basically like comparing Street Fighter 2 Turbo with Street Fighter Alpha. Okay, it's a completely different game. Um, since I had never played head on the PSP, because I don't own a PSP, I didn't know this, and I figure that's what it was. But no, like I said, it's a different game. Um, so when I purchased Extra Twisted, put it in my PS2, the first thing that I noticed right off was, okay, it gives you two games for the price of one. Okay. Um, Now, on the back of the box, you could see that it looks like there's this third game with a 3D Sweet Tooth running around. Okay, um, that's really just to show you an idea that they had, and don't get the game for that. If you did, you're going to be extremely disappointed. Okay, so ignore that. Don't worry about it. It's an awesome game. Okay, um, there's two games basically you're getting for the price of one, and that's Head On, and you're also getting Lost, Twisted Metal Lost. Okay, now Twisted Metal Lost, okay, is also incomplete, but even though it's incomplete, okay, it's still good enough to be a standalone game. All right. Um, Twisted Metal Lost was supposed to be, I'm sure you've heard about this or read about this, is supposed to be the lost levels from Black. Okay, so that's in there, and you got to understand that Lost and Head On are different games, because the roster is completely different. Okay, in Head On, for example, you have Mr. Slam. He's not in Lost. And in Lost, you have characters like Crazy 8, Dark Side, and they're not in Head On. Okay, so the character rosters are different, and also like even the same characters, for example, like Sweet Tooth. Okay, in Head On, Sweet Tooth has, for a special, he has that napalm cone, and in Lost, or you're familiar with in Twisted Metal Black, his special was that he turns into that robot and launches massive amounts of missiles. So, if you even if you look at it that way, they're pretty different. Okay, now, like I said, Lost is not a complete game, so don't expect boss battles or anything. But it's not like a super short demo either. So now let's go to Head On. Okay, this is the main part of the game. It's really really good. I think that Extra Twisted, which includes Head On and Lost, okay, is a much better game than Twisted Metal Black. And in addition to that, it's different enough that you don't have to throw away your copy of Twisted Metal Black. Okay, Twisted Metal Black is very intense, very challenging. Okay, and it's that kind of game. Okay, now Extra Twisted overall, okay, even the way the cars move is not the same. All right, that's the first thing that I realized. Even if you select Lost, okay, Twisted Metal Lost, which is like the continuation of Black, okay, even there, okay, the same characters, but the cars don't move the same, okay. So by that, maybe now you're wondering, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that like the cars seem to be a little bit more realistic, but I know they did that for Twisted Metal 3 and 4, and it pissed off a lot of people. But when I say realistic, I mean realistic in a good way. Not realistic to the point where they just made it realistic, period, and it just increased frustrating things like the car tips over real easy, backing out and turning around becomes kind of a pain. Not that kind of realistic. Realistic as in, when you're accelerating, it feels more like a car, when you get tipped over, actually, I don't even know if you can get tipped over, okay? The balance is so much better, okay? I don't think I've even experienced tipping over. I think they took it out of the game. Yeah, you could get thrown around and everything, but just from jumping around and stuff like that, it's just a lot funner, and that's the focus. People complain about the graphics and stuff like that from Extra Twisted. Who cares? It's a really fun game. And the graphics, honestly, I mean, you get to a certain point, this is a PS2 game. Okay, pretty much almost all PS2 games, the graphics aren't going to be bad. All right? You compare it to the old Nintendo NES system, okay, graphics are freaking awesome. Okay, so, I really don't see a problem unless you're nitpicking. Unless you're like a graphics designer and you can see these really small details or something, but you should just be focusing on having fun, and the game is really really fun. Like I said, this Extra Twisted edition overall is different enough from Twisted Metal Black that you don't have to go sell your Twisted Metal Black, and it's definitely, right now, I would say, at least for the PS2, probably, it's going to be the best car combat game that you can get.